the Cinema Judge!
Hello, and welcome to the Cinema Judge. For all my regulars, welcome back. If you're new to the show, welcome aboard. And today we have a blockbuster of blockbusters. Today we have Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1. Now here's the deal. This one is just loaded with cast. I mean, the cast members are amazing. Tom Cruise, Hallie Atwell, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, Pom Klementieff, and that's just to name a few. This movie goes all out on the stunts. See, Tom Cruise doesn't just make us movies. He makes us events, spectacles. He goes all in. And we have several examples of that today. We have several featurettes, and in these featurettes, they're pre-edited mini commercials that explain some of the stunts that he trained for and performs on camera, no stunt double, nothing. And we all know him enough that he doesn't skimp when it comes to action adventure. All he cares about is what we see and how it makes us feel. It's like that perfect, glorious popcorn movie. That's what he makes with these kind of films. And the story, and this is not a dig in any way, isn't as important as what you see. I mean, it's a fun story. Let me give you the quick, abbreviated example of what the story's about. Ethan Hunt and his team must track down a dangerous weapon before it falls into the wrong hands. We've heard that before. We've heard these kind of stories. But when Tom Cruise makes it, and with the incredible directing of Christopher McQuarrie, these two together, they just sync up. They can just read each other's minds, and what you get is just a spectacle. So here's a trailer for Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1.
Our lives are the sum of our choices. And we cannot escape the past. Ethan, this mission of yours is gonna cost you dearly.
The world is changing. Truth is vanishing. War is coming.
It's been a long time, friend. You've no idea the power I represent. It knows your story and how it ends.
Listen to me. The world's coming after you.
His fate is written. Shall we write yours too?
If anything happens to them, there's no place that I won't go to kill you. That is written.
Ethan, what's your objective? What's your ultimate objective?
Your life will always matter more to me than my own.
None of our lives can matter more than this mission.
I don't accept that.
Now, coming up first, we're going to have an interview with the director, Christopher McQuarrie, and he's going to talk about they're only competing with themselves. All the movies that they've made before this, building up to this, how can they top the previous one? And then immediately after that, we're going to have an interview with Tom Cruise. And it's coming from the world premiere, so that's what the noise you're going to hear in the background. But in that interview, he's going to talk extensively about the stunt that he performs where he takes this motorcycle and goes off this cliff, and then he pulls the parachute and he goes down, and it took so many hours of training and years, I think, is what they say. But that's what I want to kind of lead up to. Here's this. I usually wait till the end of the show to say this, but I always make this a TV show first, and then I make it into the podcast. And this one has such incredible visuals. Every one of these featurettes are great just hearing them, but seeing what they did is actually just, it was just amazing. So if you want to watch the TV version of this also, go to bit.ly/cinemajudge. bit.ly/cinemajudge. Or go to the City of Bloomington, Minnesota's public access TV channel, and you can type in Cinema Judge there, because it's on demand to watch whenever you want. Because these featurettes that I'm about to play for you coming up here in the show, spectacular. So first we're going to hear from the director, then Tom Cruise, and then we're going to play that featurette where they talk about this amazing stunt.
Every film Tom and I make, including Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, involves taking all of the experience from all of the films we had made previously and applying it to this one. And with any luck, and with a lot of great effort, every film should stand on the shoulders of the film that came before it. We often like to say we're not competing with anybody but ourselves. We're looking at the last film and figuring, how can we outdo that? The secret ingredient to that is not trying to make a bigger, more spectacular film. It's trying to make a film that honors the films that came before it. You ideally just want to make a movie that belongs in the list with all of those other movies. And because we have acquired so much knowledge in the development of these sequences, many of which had never been done in quite that way, we feel a little more confident and a little more adventurous each time in terms of how far we can push ourselves, how far we can take it.
I remember the first time when I let go of the bike, if I look straight down, there's a concern that I might go into a tumble. If I go into a tumble, it'll be very difficult to recover, even if I get a little unstable. So when I let go of that bike, I remember I could feel the tire, the rear tire. I could feel the air in my body as it's going around. I was thinking, I hope it doesn't hit me. And I looked down at the bike to see my distance to make sure that, because I wasn't sure whether I was going to get separation from that motorcycle. Well, we didn't quite know what was going to happen. I didn't quite know. And with all the prep and training and everything that I did. So I just saw the motorcycle go away, and I made sure that I looked up again, and my timing as I feel the wall go past me, and then it was, making sure that I go deep enough for the shot, because when you see how low I'm getting, the lower I got, the better the shot was, and I knew that. So that's what I was thinking about. And then I thought when I opened the chute, it was also not getting dragged into the side of the mountain, which on my test jump that morning, you can see I was a little, it's very delicate because there was a swirl in there, and sometimes it would hit my shoulder. It hit my right shoulder, so I'm opening. The chute doesn't open directly above me, and you can see that I turned into the mountain on the EPK. You can see it. So I was thinking about that when I was opening. I was like, I hope I don't go into the mountain again, and I have to quickly pull away, and then I have to try to make it back to base, and then also get on with McHugh and find out how was that shot.
This is far and away the most dangerous thing we've ever attempted.
We've been working on this for years. We're going to shoot it in Norway, and it'll be a motorcycle jump off a cliff into a base jump. I wanted to do it since I was a little kid. It all comes down to one thing: the audience.
There's a lot going into this stunt. So Tom put together this master plan to coordinate all of these experts in each of the particular disciplines involved to make this whole thing happen.
John and I are jumping out of the helicopter. He's going to chase me. That's what we say to each other. Don't be careful, be confident. Be confident.
A year of base training, advanced skydive training, a lot of canopy skills, a lot of tracking. Tom Cruise, he's an amazing individual. You tell him something and he just locks it in. His sense of spatial awareness, he's the most aware person I've ever met.
Lots of practice on stability and freefall.
Tracking with John and Miles in the air, doing lots of different positioning, like they were a two-man team in the air, coming on top of each other, below each other, backtracking, front tracking. You know, we've drilled and drilled and drilled.
When you do a lot of jumps back to back, the canopy control skills improve a lot.
We have 3 open canopies, which is a good thing.
The training's gone really well. It's progressive massively.
Hey, McCube. How are you? Great day, man. This is the next part of training right here, motocross.
Let's do it. So we built a motocross track.
Getting competent in the motocross, so he's comfortably jumping 70, 80-foot tabletops. Great time in the air, great positioning on the bike, landing well.
I have to get so good at this that there's just no way that I miss my marks.
That's good. Come a little closer to me. Coming up with the stunt is only one of the technical challenges. The other is putting a camera in a place that you can see where Tom is doing it. Finding the right lens, the right platform, the right medium. Even 2 years ago, the cameras didn't exist that would allow us to do what we're trying to do today.
How do we involve the audience? I just want to give them that thrill.
That means the camera has to be in front of Tom and as close to him as possible.
Feels like you're going over the camera.
Yes, very cool. Train and drill every little aspect over and over and over and over again.
They were doing 30 jumps a day.
Getting to a point where he was just a machine. I mean, over 500 skydives.
That's what we do. Over 13,000 motocross jumps.
Oh, it's gonna be fun.
Oh, it's great.
We replicated this ramp in England at a quarry.
We filled the quarry with cardboard boxes, which were there to catch the motorcycle. And the reason why we did that is so that Tom could simulate the jump.
How fast should I go off? What distance do I travel?
We built models of different ramps at different angles to calculate what Tom's trajectory would be. We have to be able to consistently predict where Tom is going to be in 3-dimensional space.
We're gonna have a GPS chip on me.
And that recorded every single one of Tom's jumps, along with his ground speed, whether there was a headwind, whether there was a crosswind. And by doing this multiple times, we were able to get a consistent set of data.
So that each take we can see what height I am, so this way we can set drones and cameras in places where I can go right into close-up. Rule 1. Don't hit me with the drone. Because if we do it all, we don't capture it right, what's the point? Let's do it, guys. Ready? Yep. Always wear my earplugs so I don't hear myself scream.
We are ready.
The key is me hitting certain speeds and being consistent with that. There's no speedometer, so I do it by sound and feel of the bike. And then as I depart the bike, I'm using the wind that's hitting me here, and I'm cupping my chest. That will give me lift. Thank you all very much for your help, guys.
We're here in Norway. We've been constructing this ramp over a number of months. Everything here has to be brought in by helicopter.
Engineers and technicians, it's incredible what they've done. This is masterful.
Today is day 1 of principal photography, and we are starting in classic mission form with the biggest stunt in the film.
What we're doing here is I'm just doing jumps just to warm up the body. Let's do it just to get my tracking going and make sure everything's working all right. Try not to smile.
Basically, when he gets down and puts a parachute on and goes and does the bike jump, he'll actually know the weather conditions in this area, in the valley, and on the ground.
And then he has to safely deploy a parachute. Now he's in a rock bowl with walls all around him, and he's got to fly out of it.
Of
course, you know, when something's been done for the first time, you can't help but worry a little bit about how it's really going to turn out.
With a jump like this, the challenge is finding the cameras, it's the amount of preparation, and then it's weather.
You want the light to be right, you want the clouds to be right, misty but not foggy. This weather right here is exactly what we're looking for.
She is about 10 minutes away from coming up here, landing, and doing the actual stunt.
Sounds good. We're in motion. See you soon.
Now we're gonna set the frames with this camera ship with the drone just to verify everything, then we're gonna get ready.
You know, the only things you really have to avoid while doing a stunt like this is serious injury or death. Here we go. You're riding a motorcycle, which is pretty dangerous, on top of a ramp that's elevated off the ground, so if you come off the ramp, that's gonna be very bad. You're falling. If you don't get a clean exit from the bike and you get tangled up with it, if you don't open your parachute, you're not gonna make it.
I saw a canopy.
To you guys, thank you.
Now, Tom, that was absolutely beautiful. Like, nothing wrong. Bike went away. I mean, the track was perfect. It was actually, it was great.
Thanks, mate. I think I can hold to the bike a little longer.
Pretty much the biggest stunt in cinema history. Tom Cruise just rode a motorcycle off a cliff 6 times today.
This is far and away the most dangerous thing we've ever attempted. The only thing that scares me more is what we have planned for Mission 8.
And just full disclosure here, I cut that one a little bit short because if you watch the TV version of it, after the point where the guy says he jumped off the mountain 6 times, there's a lot more visuals involved, but it's just music playing, so you don't really hear anything. So I figured if you're listening to it, it's like, okay, dude, come on. We've heard the music, we know. But within that little time frame, they show like quick cuts of him doing that repeated jump off the mountain. So it's really kind of cool, but I figured I didn't want to waste your time with that here because it's a really cool visual. So again, check it out on demand. It's really amazing stuff. And I also have it on TikTok. So if you have TikTok, even on Threads, look up The Cinema Judge. You'll see these there too. So if you go to either TikTok, type in Cinema Judge, or Threads, The Cinema Judge, you'll be able to see a couple of these there too. Now coming up next, we're going to hear from the director. And he leads us up to the next featurette. He talks about how he wanted to do this big train catastrophe, amazing thing, but nobody would give them a train to destroy. So you'll hear this in the interview and also the featurette. No one would give them a train, so they had to build their own train. It's amazing stuff. So first the director, then the featurette, talking about and showing all that was involved in creating that incredible train crash that they could only shoot once.
Very early on, I told Tom that I wanted this next installment of Mission to have a sense of adventure. I wanted to make a bigger film, a more global film. And part of that was making a more romantic film. And nothing felt as romantic to me as a train, particularly the Orient Express. And that, of course, when it collides with Mission Impossible, turns into an action sequence on a train, and it probably isn't going to end well for the train itself. Mission had done a train sequence before, all the way back in the first Mission Impossible. And a lot of that had been done on a stage. We wanted to do one that was practical. We wanted to build upon what was learned on that sequence and apply all of that knowledge to something practical and real. And that meant building a train where Isai Morales, who plays our villain, and Tom could be fighting on the roof of that train, and also how to wreck the train, how to wreck the locomotive, And in so doing, how do you keep that as a sequence? Once the train wreck happens, the sequence is over. How do we go beyond that? How do you have a train wreck happen so that you can stretch the event out? It's not one simple cataclysm, but many. That ambition evolved into what is now the train wreck in our film, and it quite literally is a train wreck happening in slow motion. It was an extremely, extremely challenging sequence, not just to execute, but also to design. It was working out the physics of what that would be, and then how to design all the different train cars and how to design all the equipment to shoot these stunts that we were creating. And we did not limit ourselves in the least based on whether or not something could physically be achieved. If we ran into an obstacle, we had to figure out how to overcome it. We didn't just allow ourselves to toss things out. And we created something that was quite challenging, quite challenging. When we started talking about this movie in terms of a sense of adventure, an action sequence on a train was something we'd always wanted to do. We wanted to build upon the previous films and apply all of that knowledge to something practical and real, and bring this train sequence to another level. There was not a surplus of trains available to be wrecked. We had to build the train if we wanted to destroy it. To shoot it practically was extremely challenging. Not just to execute, but also to design all the different train cars that could actually function on a working railroad track. No one else in the world is doing this level of practical filmmaking, and it may never be done again.
The train sequence takes us on an adventure. That's absolutely huge. We have this big fight on the roof, going 60 miles an hour through a real valley.
I've done fight scenes, but to do them on a moving train is trial by fire. That's how Tom likes to do things.
He's gonna now pull me off the train.
When you're hanging off a train carriage, Tom's a great person to have beside you. Not only is he fearless, he is always looking to see how it's going to land for the audience.
Crash in the train involved multiplying factors of difficulty.
You'd be chasing the train as it goes off.
Every single camera had exactly one shot at getting it right.
It's not just a matter of going off, because if we do it all, we don't capture it right, what's the point?
3, 2, 1, action!
Everything you are seeing in this spectacular train sequence is done to invest the audience in these characters.
Hang on! Mission Impossible is the most extraordinary adventure franchise you've ever seen.
You can only do it with a team like this and with an actor like Tom.
Now, guys, can you even imagine the time, the money, the investment this entire group put into making this movie? Again, the time, the building a train, a working train, and then have each car set up to have different looks, different feels, but living, breathing train. For me, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just me just overly excited about this kind of movie. But the time, I mean, they could have easily CGI'd it, done it in the studio like they've done before, but not these guys. They want the authentic, feeling it, happening as it happens. And that's rare. And I'm not knocking movies that have CGI, or all the green screen, blue screen, whatever they have, or the cube, or whatever they call it these days. They're spectacular. But practical stunts is something I think every one of us are like, yes, that's what we want, to feel like you're there with them. And he talks about that next. With the next stunt, he talks about speed flying. Now, I don't know if you guys know what that is. I've seen clips of stuff, but I never knew what it was called. But basically, here's the deal. Speed flying it's like a parachute thing, but it's shaped differently. And you are just booking. You're like feet from the ground, and you can do flips and turns and do all kind of wicked stuff as you're going. Oh, they tell you how fast they're going, but he's doing it next to a cliff, next to rocks, just booking along, and then he lands right in front of the camera. These kind of stuff, the practice, the training, the commitment. Honestly, for me, as a movie fan, I just appreciate people out there like this who care about us, not just slapping together some CGI and go, it's good enough. They'll show up no matter what we do. That's not the case here. The commitment and just loyalty to us is something that's second to none. That's why I really like to promote these kind of featurettes, because it really shows you the people behind the stunt, not just the director and the star, but there are professionals that they seek out that do this for a living, and they just work on it over and over again. So first you hear the director talk about speed flying in the stunt, and then we're going to have the featurette showing it as it happens and as it goes on. Check it out.
The challenge when you are making any action film is normally hiding the fact that your actor is not actually doing the stunt and that a stuntman is performing it for them. The opposite is true for Mission Impossible. We have an actor who does his own stunts, and we're constantly trying to develop technologies to show him doing it. And with speed flying, this was an extremely, extremely difficult challenge. How do you get a camera close enough to Tom to show that he's actually operating the speed wing, and at the same time, how are you far enough back from Tom that you see that this isn't being done with wires, this isn't some sort of a trick? And so we had to develop a gimbal system that another camera operator would be flying along with Tom while wearing. And so you had cameras hanging off of both sides that were then being operated by a camera operator who was following in a helicopter. All of this equipment did not exist. It all had to be designed and purpose-built for the sequence. To shoot these stunts for Mission Impossible, with Tom, there are no limits. So we become a little bit more adventurous every time.
Tom's doing a sport very few people on this planet do. It's called speed flying.
It's a very beautiful and delicate sport.
But it also is one of the most dangerous sports in the world. While it may look similar, speed flying is not skydiving. Skydiving is fairly predictable. Speed flying is incredibly unpredictable.
It's a very small canopy racing down a mountain just feet off the ground.
Any sort of crosswind could put Tom in peril.
We're going to do spirals. And we're landing in at an incredibly high speed, over 80 kilometers an hour. We've been training for a few years now. And we're always looking for what's the most dynamic way to shoot this.
Coming up with the stunt is only one of the technical challenges. The other is putting a camera in a place that you can see where Tom is operating the speedway.
You can't get close to this with a helicopter or a drone.
So we had to develop a gimbal system flying along with Tom. You had cameras hanging off of both sides being operated in a helicopter.
What's going to work is here's you, here's me. This is what we need. That's one of the things of doing practical action. We are at the mercy of weather, and it's too dangerous.
The wind's dropping now and it's only going to get better.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm ready.
Confirming you have pictures.
Yeah, picture's good.
3, 2, 1, action.
Tom is airborne, Tom is airborne.
Flying very close to rocks looks quite beautiful. Behind the scenes, we were all in absolute terror. Landing, Tom had to be flying towards the camera vehicle. That meant that Tom had to hit the exact mark. or it can end in disaster. It is truly a one-of-a-kind adventure.
Now, in all the commotion and all my getting excited talking about this movie, I failed you miserably. I didn't tell you some of the movies the director been a part of, either be writing or directing. We know he's directed these last couple movies, which is spectacular. But he's also a fantastic writer. Now, we all remember, if you haven't seen The Usual Suspects, run to see The Usual Suspects. He wrote that one. But what an amazing film. And he also wrote Top Gun Maverick, Edge of Tomorrow, The Mummy, Jack the Giant Slayer, Jack Reacher, The Tourist, The Way of the Gun, just to name a few. The guy's a beast. But moving forward, we are going to hear from Hallie Atwell. She plays Grace. Now, a lot of you might know her from the Avenger movies, from Captain America, The First Avenger. She was also in The Duchess, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and the Multiverse of Madness, the What If series, Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, Christopher Robin, and a little gem that you might not have seen. It's called Blinded by the Light. It's a really good movie. I strongly recommend it. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. But what an incredible actress. And she's involved in a stunt that takes place in Rome, on the streets of Rome, handcuffed to Tom Cruise, just all over the road. They went through so much practice and training for this. So we're going to hear from her from the world premiere that was done in Rome. She's talking about the car in the stunt. And then right after her, we're going to hear from Tom Cruise talking about the same thing. And then we go into that featurette, take a deep dive into that stunt.
So many good and intense memories of filming here in Rome. We have this yellow car behind us, which we nicknamed Trixie because she had a mind of her own. And so to spend 5 months learning how to drift with Trixie whilst both Tom and I were handcuffed to each other meant that by the time we got out to Rome, we had a good chance that we weren't going to harm the city, the streets, the fountains, the stairs, other people. And so the fact that we've come back here with the city intact and also thriving is such, it feels bittersweet.
That car is the car that I drove. That is the car that we drove with Hallie Atwell in there. I can't believe that it's at the bottom of these steps. We were doing donuts and the tires were on fire, smoking, not on fire, they were smoking. It's really amazing to be here. It took a lot to be able to film here during that time period. Amazing what the country did, what Rome did, what Venice did, and to be able to finally be here at this moment where we're sharing it with everyone it's quite a privilege. It's quite a privilege.
We came to Rome to shoot a chase scene, something with a lot more ambition and unpredictability that we haven't had in previous chases.
We'll be screaming through the streets of Rome, motorcycles, cars.
Everything that we shot is completely practical.
We're doing it right. It all comes down to one thing. How do we involve the audience? I just want to give them that thrill.
We let the city tell us the kind of chase it was going to be. Traffic in the city is notorious, and the cobblestone streets make all of the driving unpredictable. Best part is Tom and Hallie, they're handcuffed together.
People are chasing us.
Yes, they are. You're driving.
Tom had to drive one-handed cuffed, for real. No cheating it.
The key is, don't crash.
Who is that person?
I have no idea.
Tom is driving and drifting one-handed through the streets of Rome. That was a day I will never forget.
Trying to do drifts every time you think you're going in one direction. It's the cobblestones on the street say, no, you're not, you're going this way.
You gotta get rid of this car.
Tom and Hallie ditched the car for one of their IMF vehicles.
Suddenly, this tiny little Fiat 500 comes out of nowhere.
We built this Fiat 500 so that it would be faster.
You could barely control the car. It was treacherous.
The Fiat, that was wild.
Some would even say the car is possessed. I don't think we could have made a sequence that was more difficult to shoot if I had gone out of my way to do it. It has really amazing results.
Now, I would have to imagine being handcuffed to somebody during all this time, during rehearsals and practice, you get to know a person pretty darn well. Just throwing it out there. So up next, you're going to hear from Hallie Atwell talking about working with Tom Cruise.
I was committed and willing to give it everything I had and to try different things and to pivot and make changes. And every step of the way, he was encouraging me to do my best and supporting me and giving me all the tools and resources to make sure that I was doing it safely and that I felt proud of what I was doing. And it just makes you want to give even more. So there became this dance between us. He's such a generous actor to work with.
Now, this is just a little bit of full disclosure on my end, in case you care about the behind-the-scenes making of this show. When I'm doing the TV version of this, the show can't be more than 29 minutes. So a lot of times, interviews I have to take out and I can't put in. And it kind of bums me out. But then with this, it gives me a little additional time since there's no time limit. But I still think they're vital enough to share. So the last interview you heard, in the next couple you'll hear from Hallie Atwell, you won't see it in the TV version. So I just want to let you know, in case you do go watch the TV version, you'd be like, hey, where's that interview? I just felt these are too important to leave out. So in these interviews, some of them she'll be from the red carpet. She's going to talk about the 5 months of training and finding her character, the process, and just working with everybody involved. I just felt her too important. So here she is talking a little bit more.
I think by the time that we got to the Rome car chase sequence, because I trained for 5 months in the UK drifting around a racetrack, but then you take all that skill of drifting, but you put it in a real location with real obstacles of people and old buildings you want to make sure that you don't damage, and making sure that everything was still working at an adrenalizing speed and we could put performance into it. So that's when it all felt it came together.
What became very apparent early on in my preparation and my research and my training for Mission, without a script necessarily or particular anchor points of who my character was going to be, is Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise's drive, passion, commitment for the actresses that they employ coming in, or the actors that they employ coming in, to really play and to collaborate and to offer lots of different ideas and to be fully seen and heard in them, and having great, honest, direct communication about things that we wanted to try or that I was confused about and needed clearing up on. They're so transparent in their process and very inclusive in that. And I felt incredibly safe. And I also thought, I want to come in and offer something new. I want to be offering something that hasn't been seen before in a Mission film, because it's already such a beloved and established franchise that I would have to offer something new. Otherwise, I'm either going over old ground, or it's already been done before, or the audience don't have a new emotional attachment to my character because it's the same. It's always been. And I knew that I wanted to try and elevate Grace out of just being one thing or the representation of the new woman coming in, so that it felt much more expansive than that. I knew when I got the job that there would be about a 5-month training period where it would be not that we were chasing a particular style or a particular aesthetic, but we were seeing where my natural abilities, strengths, and interests lie, and therefore creating a bespoke training program so that I could competently and safely do these stunts. And so the motto that I ran with, literally, was to be fit for purpose. So we tried lots of different disciplines, and what I felt most connected to was working with knives and working with more styles of mixed martial arts that were a lower center of gravity. Pom is incredible at these high kicks, and I found that I was much more of a wrestly kind of fighter and a scrappy one, and very fast with knives and with props. And so we used that as the character, and we used that as part of the training process, so that I was able to get to a level of competence where I knew that I was able to do certain stunts over and over again from different angles with dynamic movement. And I found that, that whole that whole experience changed my life, because it meant that I was able to start to put myself out of my comfort zone, but also be able to control my nervous system so that I was able to push myself further physically.
I love hearing about an actor talking about finding their character and everything that's involved. You get to dig inside their mind. Because for me, a lot of times you watch a film, you're like, what does it take? Where do they go? What do they do to get inside that character's state of mind? For me, that just is really cool. Now, up next, we're going to hear from a little bit more from the red carpet and then non-red carpet. We're going to hear from Hallie, the director, Hallie, Tom, and then back to the director.
It has been relentless and intense in the most life-affirming way. It's both McHugh and Tom have this symbiotic relationship whereby they are bouncing ideas off each other all the time. So you can walk onto set on any given day and a script change will happen, or they'll throw out a new bit of dialogue, and they are encouraging you to come, as the actor, to come up with ideas. And so it's very much a collaborative back and forth process. And I knew going into it that if I surrendered to that process, then I was going to have the most extraordinary ride and surprise myself with what I could do.
We're now at the point where you don't even have time to think about the scale of what it is you're doing. You're simply doing everything you can to finish the story you've set out to do. With Tom, there are no limits. And no limitations. He wants you to push him as much as he is pushing everyone else around him to do their best.
From genre to tone, to the characters' arcs, to the visual spectacle of it, it's a film that we haven't seen anything of this nature ever before. It pushes the envelope technologically. Everything we're doing in this movie is all for the sake of delighting the audience, and I think it will delight, it will excite. You'll wake up the next morning with an emotional hangover from it. Make sure you sleep well and you're hydrated.
This is a big, epic adventure for me. That's what this film is, and it's filled with practical action. You're going to see things that have really never been shot before, ever, and we've had to create a lot of knowledge in making these films. You're going to see an amazing cast. These characters, I love the characters, I love what they all created, and I just hope you go in a packed theater with your friends and family and just have a wonderful time. That's why we made it. I make my movies for audiences and for the big screen.
What I love most about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is that every single actor in the story has their moment. They all have a chance to showcase their extraordinary talent. They all have their moment to be at the center of the story. And this cast really delivered on a level that is so extraordinary. They all leaned into the process. They were all inventive. They all gave themselves over to the unexpected. And as a result, they each deliver something truly unexpected.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. We'll have to wait to see what happens in Part 2. They try to top the stunts that they did on this one. I can't imagine what they're going to do next. I don't know if it's this movie, but there is rumors, and I'm not saying it's true, but I wonder if it's for the next of this, where Tom Cruise plans to shoot a scene or a movie in outer space. He's supposed to go to the space station and shoot stuff. Is it for this project or Part 2? I have no idea. And maybe you've heard the same thing. But if that's the case, talk about going above and beyond, people. That I salute him for that, because that's pretty intense. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any way to improve the show, please let me know. cinemajudge@hotmail.com, or visit me on any platform out there. Well, not any, but most of them, like TikTok. I'm there. Leave me a message. I would love to hear from you. Threads, look up Cinema Judge. Instagram, The Cinema Judge. The Meta Universe, if you go to Horizon Worlds, go look me up, Cinema Judge. I sit there, walk around, play games. We could talk movies if you want to. I enjoy it. I love all the people I have conversations with. It's a blast. But whatever you want to do, I would love to hear from you. Now, speaking of hearing from you, this is the part where I thank you, every solitary one of you, whether you're down the block or on the other side of the world, you take time out of your busy life to listen to this show, to learn a little bit about a movie. I love that, because that's what we're all about here. I don't care if it's a blockbuster like this or an independent film. I just want to share movies with you. I collect the information and I give it to you, the jury, so you can make up your own mind. I would never ever tell you not to see a movie, because we all walk different paths. Who am I to tell you? Because in my mind, any movie is somebody's favorite movie. Because we all want to spend our hard-earned money wisely. Because we want the same thing. An enjoyable movie experience. This isn't a place of noise, of yelling or screaming or criticizing these people. There's enough noise out there. This is like a little bubble, an oasis for film. And you can just learn about something. Because you never know when you might find that gem. And you go, wow, I would have never thought of seeing this film or that film or whatever. Because that's what I love finding, those gems, those ones that you go, wow, this has far exceeded my expectations. And sometimes that comes from just hearing an interview from somebody, getting different insights from it, and just getting rid of the noise of everybody out there telling you, don't see something or what have you. That's not our jam here, and if you listen long enough, you know that. And I always hope my voice finds you well, because I love hearing about how you listen to this show. Whether it is you're driving your car, taking a long road trip, because I know a lot of you do that. Whether you're driving for work or whatever you're doing, you just put this on and you just let it roll from episode to episode. Or some of you use it as a nightlight, where you play it throughout the night on break. Whatever you're doing, or just sitting at home doing chores from dishes to laundry. I love hearing how you listen to this show, and you might be listening years from now, and that's all good too. I love hearing that, because when I give this shout out, you might be saying to yourself, hey buddy, I listened to several of your past episodes and you didn't mention me. That stuff is impossible to find out. It's just a lot easier to find out last episode where it just lists it right there. It's impossible the other way. So if you don't want to be a shout out, just listen to old episodes. But this is where I shout out to you guys. So wherever, whenever, or whatever you're doing, this is for you. To all my listeners from the United States, Germany. Again, Germany, you guys are listening and sharing the show. I'm truly indebted to you. Same thing with Canada, United Kingdom, Japan, the Netherlands, Minneapolis, Minnesota, San Diego, California, Frankfurt, AM, Maine, Hesse, always steady eddies, Los Angeles, California, Amsterdam, North Holland, Park Rapids, Minnesota, Lifffield, Redbridge, Stillwater, Minnesota, Rosemount, Minnesota, Valencia, California, always steady, Parker, Colorado, Littleton, Colorado, Yakima, Washington, Maple Grove, Minnesota, Overland Park, Kansas, Seattle, Washington, Brampton, Ontario, Chicago, Illinois. Now that's just to name a few. I am so grateful for every solitary one of you. It truly means a lot to me. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. You might not even believe this, but it's true. Every time, if I click on that set and it says, wow, somebody listened from wherever or wherever, I do a happy dance in my chair. That's right, I do. It's not a pretty sight, but I do it because I'm like, man, somebody listened to the show and I hope they learned something. If you want to share it with people, cool. If not, hey, dig, I understand. It's people always ask that, so I try not to do that too much. But now it's time for the bourbon shout out. This week it goes out to Tracy. Recently I went just to do a checkup type thing where they check for your calcium in your heart, where they just zoom me in, zoom me out. But I had such a great time talking to her. We talked movies, we talked TV shows. It was just a blast just to talk. It was like, hey, it was an easy process and she made it even easier. So to you, cheers. But now, as I was talking earlier in the show, you know this is the TV show first. So when I'm doing a TV show, I don't have to worry about talking, any of that kind of stuff. It's just me, the movie, and music. That's my sweet spot. If I can live in that kind of world, what more do I need? So when I'm doing this TV show, I am just cranking the tunes and just bebopping around. And what I did with this one, I'm like, well, this is action adventure. what do I need? So I was going back and forth. So when I'm sitting here editing, I just put on my Amazon Unlimited, and I have a folder named like 70s and 80s kind of stuff. It's a mixture of bands. It's some 70s stuff, some hair metal bands, some just pop stuff, you name it. So for example, in that little section I have, now I don't know if you ever heard of the band Planet P Project. If you never have, check them out. Planet P Project. The one song I just dig by them is called Why Me? It's kind of like a Major Tom type song where this guy's going up in a ship. But either way, for some reason that just always just resonated with me. It just, every time I hear it, I just kind of have to stop and just go, oh man, I love that song. And the lead singer for that band is called Tony Carey. And one of his great songs by himself is A Fine, Fine Day. And again, that's one of those songs where I'm just like, yes! It's about a guy reflecting on when his uncle went to prison, because maybe he was a gangster or something when he was released, and he drives down to his old neighborhood. Anyway, check that one out. A Fine, Fine Day by Tony Carey. But then also it has Toto. I threw on some Traffic, Low Spark of High-Heeled Boys. Great song. Again, Traffic, Low Spark of High-Heeled Boys. Threw on some Tubes, Twisted Sister, Steely Dan, Dirty Work. I actually lived that song for a while, and I regret nothing. Status Quo, Pictures of Matchstick Men. I always get tongue-tied on that one, but I love it. Spandau Ballet, The Scorpions, Seals and Croft. I mean, come on, what more do you need? Summer Breeze, Diamond Girl. You got a little Sade, Smooth Operator, Paul Davis, Olivia Newton-John. My God, does she have a great tunes. A little Missing Persons from the 80s. Kim Carnes, Betty Davis Eyes. Oh, great song. Kansas, Kaja Gugu. Come on, Kaja Gugu. Just a name on its own. Too Shy. I don't know if you lived that era, you know it. But if you never heard of it, look up Too Shy by Kaja Gugu. Juice Newton, Judy Collins. There's a song called Sending the Clowns. And I remember when that came out, my grandma lived in a small town, and she knew that I just really loved that song. So she went out of her way to try to find that tape at the time. I was so moved by that she goes, oh, he likes that song. I'm going to try to find that tape. So I never forgot that. And another great band from the 80s, Joe Jackson, Stepping Out, Breaking Us in Two. Is she really going out with him? Come on, that one's classic. The Jayhawks, Blue. I love that song. Check out that one, Jayhawks, Blue. And again, I've rambled on long enough, but the list of them on that little folder that I have is just the range of 70s, 80s, and so on is incredible. So that's what I was listening to when I was recording, when I was doing a TV version of this. And I was just rocking. Well, that is it. My glass awaits. I'm thirsty. Cheers to you and to the movies. So till next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.